Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, the headlines and music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Windsor Burns. My counterpart, Savon Morris, was not able to be on for this one, but I'm joined by a special guest, Max Petion. He's been on for past times, and obviously one of the biggest Heat fans I know, so I had to have him on for this episode. So thanks for being on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it as always. I love coming on with you guys, it's a great time to be on.
Yeah, perfect time.
It could have been,
could have been different.
Wins or misery.
Exactly.
Winning and misery.
Yep. Those are the two. Well, we have a lot of topics to get in for this episode. Obviously, we're gonna cover some NBA topics, a finals preview, and in the second half, we're going to do a review of the movie Air. But to start off with Miami's Game 7 road win in Boston, Caleb Martin's significant performance. The Heat won 103 to 84. Jimmy Butler scored 28 points, with Caleb Martin having 26 points and 10 rebounds. And another major development in the game, obviously, was Tatum turning his ankle on the first play of the game and only having 14 points and 11 rebounds. But to you, what did you think about this Miami win? Obviously, losing three straight, there was the pressure of them possibly being the first team to blow a 3-0 lead, and especially in the Eastern Conference Finals, them kind of still finding a way in a hostile environment to pull this out.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when you're a sports fan, you always have those moments when you're like, all right, all we need to do is this. We get back into it, and usually you start on losing end,
right,
and you're working your way up, and so it was just kind of weird being in that position, when the Heat were up 3-0, but like they said, it was just about that mental toughness and just forgetting about. I think it was different too when you hear, even Charles Barkley spoke about one of his old coaches giving a talk after, one of their losses and like, we're gonna do this, and like, the way he spoke with confidence, it gave the team some confidence. You know what I'm saying? So I think when Spo came out Game 6, it was like, we're ready to run it back right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like, NCAA is one of those things.
That was very telling for Spoelstra right after Game 6. He seemed like very confident, like he's figured an adjustment out.
Oh yeah, and I think it's just a bad way to lose a game. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, somebody pulled up from 3 or whatever and dropped it on you. It was just like you didn't box out like that. Like you can't have that on your resume. That's going to be a stain, on your career for the rest of your life. But it was tough. I followed Miami Heat. I remember when the Heat were down, I think 2-0 to Dallas, Dwayne Wade's first championship.
Yep. They won 4 straight.
Someone's like, "You think the Heat's going to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I think so." It's just like that. Dwayne Wade just had that it factor. Like,
yes.
I don't know what, people say analytics now, but like Pat Riley has to be like a machine to find these guys, and so it's just like it gave me that, it was like that feeling, like Miami was down 2-0 and people didn't believe in them, and Dwayne Wade willed them back, and unfortunately, he had to go through these 3 losses in a row, but I think it just showed something different. I feel like I honestly felt like if they would have won Game 6, it would have just not been. It was just I was really upset by how the game was called. It was just like uneven and just
the officiating has been.
It was just weird, man. I'm just like, come on, man. Just if y'all gonna let them play, let them play. But I think the guys did really good. Like forgetting Game 6, coming back Game 7, and just like, oh, we've been here before. It's like they have to have their backs against the wall, I guess.
Yeah, they really did, and I mean, another part of this is the fact that Tyler Hero hasn't been with them. And they've had players like, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. Like, how much did that surprise you that those guys kind of like Butler obviously had a good series, but it almost felt as though Caleb Martin was even more important in terms of just having the impressive performances throughout the series?
Well, I started seeing, I think in the first series, I started noticing how Caleb Martin was playing. And it was just like, because last year, if you remember, it was just like he had the length, athleticism. I was hoping he yammed it on more people this playoffs, but it's a thing of there's a fine line. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Ja, you can jump up and do all these cool things, but there's like you gotta have that balance. You know what I'm saying? And so last year, Caleb Martin was always getting in foul trouble, and so we couldn't really see his effectiveness on defensive end. Got long arms, he can jump. But this year, it's like first series, I started seeing like how he's playing defense, and it's just like like working his way up. You know what I'm saying? And even look at sidebars, just like Highsmith coming in and the way he was playing defense. I'm just like, you can watch in real time, like you can see like what's about to happen. The way his eyes are moving, his body is moving, and he made some crazy plays. It's just like, but Caleb Martin, like I don't know, like as a Heat fan, I'm just saying I'm proud to see a guy like that, come bring himself up, going from not knowing if he's ever going to play in the NBA again. You got a twin brother, bro. They look like the Heat. If he had got hurt, the Heat could have rolled the twin in. Nobody would have known.
Yeah, I would not have known at all. I would not have been known any difference.
I saw one time I saw him on the I saw the twin on Charlotte, and I was like, dang, did the Heat trade him? I didn't realize I didn't know they were twins until then.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he he worked his way up from there to where he is now, where it's like people kept talking about, win or lose, he's working on that payday, and I mean, well deserved. He plays defense. He's taking shots like with confidence. It's a different thing when a guy like just shoots to shoot.
It almost feels like he's gonna make it every time he shoots it. Like that's just the look he has.
I mean, he did a move last night. I thought he was gonna drive it, and he just spin around and just wet. I was like, dang, like, and I think the Heat just let him loose in Game 7. It was just like, because Game 6 he was on 1-2. They just cooled him off real fast. Because, I mean, the stats were pretty good, like, especially in the first half of Game 6. I thought he would take more shots. But it seems like the shot volume is there, and, there's a lot. I mean, the sky's the limit with this guy. If he can, whatever he's doing to get to where he is now, figuring out how to continue to build off of that, he can be a Heat lifer real fast.
There's no telling. Yeah, there's no telling how far he can go. And before we move on, especially looking at from the Celtics vantage point, and obviously there's been the discussion of, is Jaylen Brown and Tatum a duo that can work long term? Obviously, Brown is 26, Tatum's 25. They have plenty of years to develop into a championship duo. But how do you feel as though this will work out between these two, between both of those players? And what's the future, especially when you have a young coach like Joe Mazzulla, who got kind of thrusted into this at the last minute and really had to figure things on the spur of the moment?
One, I think Joe Mazzulla is going to have to get a little tough. He's going to get a little more tough skin. He's younger than me, so I get it.
When, sensitive.
When it's almost like you're an artist as a coach. The coaches who put defenses together in a scheme and they can adjust. It's like an art form where some coaches we're going to play this way no matter what. Just like, okay, there's no flexibility in this. It worked before. Like, what I'm saying? So I think for him, he's going to have to, he's not going to make it next year, like past next year, if he continues the way he like responds to the media. And he's like, if you don't care, like, you got to give that off. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to make like Bill Belichick. He don't care. Every time he talks, he don't care.
Yeah, he's got shorter press conferences than Greg Popovich. Like when you look at that's in between timeout, like he's saying like Greg Popovich gives off more comments than Joe Mazzulla does.
Yeah, it's like you got to be annoyed, but don't let them know you're annoyed.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And so I think that kind of took a lot of energy from him. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to like Tatum and Brown, honestly, I think they should break them up.
Really?
At this point, Tatum has to stay. He has to be the one. But I feel like if you can get, I mean, you can find someone to give you the output that Brown is giving you, but
that can be replicated. Can be replicated, but Tatum, that's different.
I just feel like Tatum needs a veteran in his ear who isn't Marcus Smart. Like Marcus Smart is Marcus Smart. He's great in his ways, but he's not like a Draymond Green. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like a guy who's done it, who knows his role, and who knows like, all right, obviously it didn't work. It didn't work out with KD the way he was, but he knows his role. He knows when to say the right things to Steph and Clay to get those guys going, to get his team going. But when you like a guy like Marcus Smart, who I appreciate his toughness and all that stuff, but he can't speak into Tatum in a way that a veteran who is at least you know made it to the finals a few times or has had that kind of success can speak to him, or even just that killer instinct. Because I feel like that pressure, just I can see Tatum like shrink under pressure so many times. I mean, I'm not mad that the Heat are the benefactors of that, but
Yeah.
you think about it, Gabe Vincent was hurt his ankle. Jimmy Butler is playing on a hurt ankle. Like the when you see a player
Everybody's
grab,
playing through some type of injury, even
yeah, but
even
when you
you
see
know,
a player grab his foot, that's a different kind of ankle injury. When
yeah,
when the player grab the higher part of his leg, like Jimmy Butler, like those are the type of ankle injuries you hate.
yeah.
Like you don't like because they're not going away. But it's just one of those things where like I like how I mean kind of think of it like how LeBron came to Miami and then watch how he went back to Cleveland. He took all that he's learned, and that's how LeBron is personally business. Like he's always been like that. He gleans and then takes what he's learned and makes it his own. And so, uh, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. What did I say before that?
You mean when
I
it comes?
apologize.
No, you're good. When it comes to Tatum and Brown.
Yeah, and so like Tatum doesn't have that experience to
Oh yeah.
glean from.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like some people, like I wish Tatum had a Doc Rivers in his life because that's a different kind of experience that you know a different kind of wisdom that Doc can give him. And he's gifted, clearly gifted. But and he has to be the one. Like that there's those moments where even in Game 6, where as bad as Jimmy Butler played, he knew like the way he shot those 3 free throws. I think everybody was nervous but him.
Oh yeah. It
The
didn't
way he
even look
made them is just
rattled
like
at all. It did.
no. And I just I like something about Jimmy Butler is like he just like a dude that's only played basketball on a hard top, like no fouls
Yeah.
called,
He gives
like
off that vibe.
yeah. I'm just like that's the kind of dudes you gotta like be careful
And
with. You know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
that's personally why it didn't work with him in Philly. Because Ben
Yeah.
Simmons and Joel Embiid could not work with a player like that. And he was like, these
Oh
guys
yeah.
are not even built from the same cloth that I am.
Yeah. You can't go cry to Pat Riley that Jimmy Butler's being too tough on you. Like you know what I'm saying? Like there's no way. And I think, but even like you watch how they talk, and and on a personal level, Jimmy Butler's had some like personal stuff, growing up, and I really feel like someone like him personally has searched for family, and the way he talks about the team, like I haven't seen him talk like that about anybody, and they're definitely doing something behind the scenes that even Spoelstra didn't even want to talk about the video he showed the team. That's how secretive they are, but
Yeah.
there's
Top
definitely something
secret.
that's going on. Yeah, there's definitely something that's going on behind the scenes that you know Philly was missing. You know what I'm saying? Like all these other teams were missing that Miami has, and I don't know like how Eric Spoelstra. I mean, I'm gonna say Pat Riley because he's the most uh, fixed
Influential.
person in
Yeah.
these players. Like, how did he find these guys? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
you know,
It's almost like how we say
here,
about the Spurs, like every year back when they were winning titles. Like, how do they get all these overseas players? The Ginobili's, Boris
yeah,
Diaw's, all those guys, like Thiago Split. They just found guys that nobody else
yeah.
was really looking for.
And if you look at even though you look at the Heat's bench, like the coaches on the bench, there were some scrappy guys. Like these, Karan Butler for one. Like, if Karan Butler didn't have injuries and stuff that he had going, like he could have. I mean, it could have been him and D Wade. You know what I'm saying? Him, D Wade, like, but it was just one of those things where it's just like, I might be taking that, messing that whole story up because it might be more to that I'm like glossing over. But it's just like those kind of players, and then you have them as coaches now, and it's like when you saw when Spoelstra and Jimmy were arguing, everybody just walking around like this is normal.
Yeah,
Like the
and that's the thing.
only person that was like hot was Jonathan Haslam. Everybody else was just like, shut up, Jimmy, or like just, oh well.
Yeah, that was the thing because I even like with most blowups, players, it has a deeper effect on them, and it causes just a big headline. But
Mm-hmm.
with Miami, it was almost as one of those things like, yeah, we're gonna voice our differences, but this is what we do. We're gonna voice it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna like have some type of passive aggressive behavior. We're just gonna voice it
Oh
in front
yeah.
of everybody, and it's gonna be good, and we're gonna keep moving forward.
And you can tell how they talk about each other. Jimmy will say, I want to do this, but Caleb gave me a bad pass. Caleb always does that.
Yeah,
You can tell it's like something they probably talked about, probably thought about, but now it's like an inside joke kind of
yeah,
thing. And I think that's the big thing is like, man, when your star player may not feel themselves, or maybe you're just hearing what's going on in the background, people saying, "Oh, Jimmy Butler, this," like people wanted to trade Jimmy Butler, like part of a good chunk of the season, a quarter of the season. Heat fans or those who think
blow
they're
up
Heat
this
fans,
word.
yeah. And I'm just like, I'm that type of person, like kind of hard headed attitude, but I've seen the Heat, ups and downs, and it just felt different. When it's like when the Heat have the tools that have been present in NBA champions. It's just a matter of putting them together. And honestly, they have the one thing in the finals that no other team has, and that's Eric Spoelstra. I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put that out there. I don't know where the rest of the discussion is going, but
I already know
I'm
who
gonna
you're
put
giving
that
the
out there.
coaching edge to. I already know who you're giving the coaching edge to.
It's clear. Like no, last year he should have won Coach of the Year because I didn't see anyone do as much